Welcome to Trust the Plan. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
Jim, we're into the fall, which means?
It's fall, it's football, it's cider mills, it's all the good fall traditions that we have here in Michigan.
You know, I received an email from a client saying, "Why do you guys talk about the cider mills so much?" And I'm like, "Because we like it.
Yeah.
Because we like to go."
That's it. I got a good story about that.
And if if you don't want to hear the story, which Jim's about to tell, then just skip ahead like 1 minute.
Well, 30 seconds. I'll try to make it quick. You know, my daughter's away at college this year, and again, not in Michigan, so she's down in Ohio, and I don't think cider mills are a thing. So when I went to visit her a couple weeks ago, I stopped by the cider mill first, brought her and her roommate some cider and donuts, and they were thrilled. They thought it was great.
Yeah.
But all of her non-Michigan friends were like, "You went to a what? A cider mill?" They didn't know it. They had no concept of it. So there might be some truth to that.
Well, you know what to bring them next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're talking about bank accounts. So let's get our graphic going here. Here it is. Nope, that was last week. Here we go. Okay, so we're talking about bank accounts, and came across this in the Wall Street Journal the other day, and it really jumped out to me because it showed the median checking and savings balances over the last 5 years. So why do normally I wouldn't care so much about this, but the narrative makes so much sense with the last, with the policies.
Yeah, kind of in light of what we've gone through the last 5 years, it's an interesting chart to look at.
It's crazy to think 5 years.
I know.
Okay, so in 2019, we had the same median bank balances as we do right now. So this is like adding up your checking and savings account, okay? And that is like $3,000, okay? So I guess from the start of 2019, we're up 14%. But at various points in 2019, you could say we're flat, okay? The point here to me is that it's very similar to where we were before the pandemic. Then pandemic hits, okay? And what happens?
Yeah, obviously the government knew there was people in financial trouble. People weren't working, so they gave stimulus checks, right? We decided to start giving money to people to try to ease some of the pain that we were going through with all the shutdowns.
Yeah. So the shutdowns, and I can't remember how many stimulus checks were handed out as a result. I mean, they had unemployment bonuses. There was actually no punishment for the company if you put, normally if you lay someone off, they file against you for unemployment. That was not a consequence, so people were laying people off left and right with additional bonuses. In fact, I know some people could be laid off and collect unemployment and have more money than they were getting from working their job. We had people that we learned about that back in the day. Then they had stimulus checks that went out to everyone who earned under a certain threshold. Then we had like the PPP loans for small business. And what's that other tax thing that came under scrutiny?
Yeah, there was
lately?
another child tax.
Oh yeah, that was happening too.
That ended up in a check for most people.
And then there's the student loan deferment. There's another. What was the thing that was happening with small businesses where there was tons of fraud? Like you'd see commercials for there'd be like radio ads saying, if you didn't lay people off during the pandemic, call us and we'll get this money for you. And then that was fraudulent for a lot of people, but they're just handing out billions and billions. So anyway, as a result, the median bank balance went up. You can see it went up in 20, went up again in 21, and this is a result of the government transferring money to your bank account, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the chart shows it perfectly. You can see the spikes, right? Right in 2020, stimulus check, boom, we shot up, then we start working it down, and then stimulus checks round two, boom, shot up again. Where the balance, I mean, if you're looking at this chart, I mean, it's, 5,500 or more. I mean, a lot of people, that doubled where their bank balance was previously.
Yeah, 100% growth of your bank balance. So, a lot of people probably just blew it right away. A lot of people maybe saved it for a rainy day based on this chart. But they've slowly been drawing their bank balance down over the past couple of years. And so now we're kind of back to, similar levels of 2019. So what can we take away from this chart? In my opinion, in 22, the market went down 27%, peak to trough, which is a bear market, which is signaling recession. Interest rates went through the moon because of the inflation. And so it looked like we were going to have a recession, but we didn't. And I think this is one of the key factors why. Okay. I mean, we had 2 quarters of technically negative growth, which historically has kind of always been the definition, but they didn't call it a recession. It was like pretty close probably, but it wasn't. Well, this is probably one of the reasons why we skirted it. The money that people were drawing down from the bank, keeping the GDP rolling. But the other reason is the federal deficits. So we're looking at $2 trillion deficits, in 22 and 23 and 24. And I know that there are big deficits in 20 and 21, right? I get the ones in 20, but like all these extra deficits, I feel like, what are we doing here, right? We don't need all these deficits. The debt's out of control. I'm like it's a really personal topic for me. So I like to talk about it. It's going to be a problem. But I think that allowed us to delay the coming recession whenever that's going to happen. Like we skirted it because of the money in the bank and the deficits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like the government propped us up by taking on the debt themselves instead of letting it fall to the consumer. But like you said, eventually, it can't continue forever.
Yeah, and now this is over, right? This is no longer a stimulus. It's no longer a tailwind. It's neutral. Right? That's gone. But we are still doing the $2 trillion deficits.
Yeah.
For some reason, we're doing that. And so that will help us avoid recession. But then, what happens next? If government spending ever does go down, that's taking money, stimulus out of the economy. So there's short-term pain, which could be a recession. But in the long run, it allows more efficient use of capital. Because when the government enters into the economy, it crowds out private money. And so that's a negative long-term effect. So we have to do a little bit of pain for long-term gain. But otherwise, the deficits, they're good for today, right? It's like...
It's short-term.
Short-term stimulus, yeah. Yep, so I found this very interesting, wanted to share with you guys. Do you have anything else you want to add on this?
The only other thought I had is, that, we had a lot of, employment shortages too, right? And we talked a lot about how people aren't fully staffed and they're having trouble getting employees. And you can point back to this and say, well, a lot of these people, their bank balance was double what it was, a couple of years earlier. Why go to work? So I think maybe that's helped kind of right some of the employment issues we've been seeing.
And that tide has turned. But I would push back on that point and say, well, Jim, if you go from $3,000 in the bank to $5,000, just for example, is that going to mean I don't need to go to work?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never bought into that.
I would hope people would use it as an opportunity to get further ahead. I would look at that and say, I got a nice bank balance. If I go to work and keep adding to it, it's going to get even better.
Yeah, not everyone thinks the same way, though. But the way I think, I think I have a reasonable standard of living. Like, I'm sorry, but I spend more than $5,000 a month for my whole lifestyle. I got a family of 5.
Sure.
The house payment, the Catholic school, right? Car payment. It hits $5,000 pretty quick. Okay, and so. If I have 3,000 versus 5,000, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't move the needle.
Yeah, and so it's hard for me to understand that argument. Okay, and maybe I'm wrong, but Preston, what do you think? Okay, so if you guys like what you're hearing here, please share with your friends, family. And if you'd like a second opinion with what you're doing with your financial plan and your portfolio, please reach out to us at peakwm.com.